This conference will now be recorded.
Right, let's start. Yeah, so today we'll discuss about transport management. Okay, so what is this transport management is? Every object which an ABAP consultant develops should be transported from what one client to what another client in the system landscape. Okay, so something like this. So we know that in every SAP project, what is the minimum landscape we will have? We will have 1 second. So if you see this SAP system landscape, you will have development system, quality system, and what production system. Okay, so this is development system, and this is quality system, and this is your production system. So in every SAP project, this is the minimum landscape you'll have. This is development system. Next, we call this as quality assurance system, quality system or quality assurance system, and then you'll have what a production system. Okay, so which type of users will be working in this particular will have access to this development system. So if you see the types of users here, in case of this SAP system landscape, the developers will have access to what this particular development system. Okay, developers and even what functional consultant also they will have access to this particular development system. Okay, so here when I say developers, nothing but what ABAP consultants. ABAP consultants, then some functional consultant also will have access to this particular development system. And what is the types of task you'll do here, types of work. Okay, as an ABAP consultant, we'll do the development activity. Okay, the functional consultant will do the required customizing, means what are the plants, what are the locations, what are the company codes, all the other functional related customization will be done by what the functional consultants, development, customizing. Okay, and once the development is completed, we will be doing the unit testing. Understood? Whatever we develop, we have to test it. Okay, so yeah. So after developing the objects, what you have to do now? Every object we need to transport to what quality system. We will have access to this quality system, the types of users. So generally testers and some functional consultants may have access to this particular what quality assurance system. So what kind of job they'll do in this particular quality system types of work is they are going to do the testing, means we call it as integration and what quality testing. Understood? We are going to test, the testers are going to test it, they are going to test how the object is working. So once everything is working fine, the object needs to be transported to what production system. Okay, who will have access to this production system? The client team, the end users. Okay, the types of users who will have access to this is end users. End users will have access to this particular production system. Okay, so what is the types of work the end users are going to do? They are going to execute what? Different transactions. They are going to execute different transactions with what? Real business data. They are going to execute different transactions with real business data. So if you take any SAP what project landscape, you'll have minimum three clients: development client, quality client, and production client. So every object, as an ABAP consultant, you'll have access to what? The development system. So every object that we are going to develop, let me just save it. Right. So every object that a map consultant develops in the development system, we need to transport it to what? Quality system. Whenever that object comes to quality system, tester is going to test that particular object. Okay. After that, if everything is working fine, it has to be moved. It has to be transported to a production system where the end users will start executing what? Different transactions with the actual business data. So if you see here, so far, what are the objects we developed? Okay, we are saving every object in what? Local object. Understood? We have developed executable programs, include programs, subroutine pools, function modules, function group, and we have developed different what? Dictionary objects like tables, data elements, domains, structures, type group. Understood? So what are the different objects we have developed so far? We are saving that object in what? Local object. Whenever we click on the save button, it will ask you for what? Package. Okay. So since we don't know how to create the package, what we have done so far, we are saving it in what? Local object. So the object stored in local object cannot be transported. So in the real time, every object that we develop has to be stored in a package. So first let us understand what is a package. So if you store it in a package only, we can once we store it in a transportable package, the object will be assigned to what? Change request, or we call it as transport request. Then only we have the provision to transport it from what? One system to what? Another system. I repeat once again, the objects which are stored in local object means what is a package? $tmp. The objects which are stored in local object cannot be what? Transported. Okay, so far we are saving everything in what? Local object. So now what we are going to do, we are going to save that object in a transportable package, so that it is assigned to what? Change request. So in the project, what happens is, you will not have multiple packages. You may have only what? One package. On behalf of the entire project, you may have only what? One package. In a project, there might be some 10 ABAP consultants working in the project. So every ABAP consultant will not have a separate package. On behalf of the entire project, only one package would be available. Generally, only one package would be available. In that package only, all the objects has to be stored. So at the beginning of the project, what happens is the basis consultant or even ABAP consultant, whoever is having the authorization, whoever is having the permission to create the package, he will create the package on behalf of the whole team, on behalf of the entire project. One package would be created so that the rest of the ABAP consultants can start storing their objects in what? That particular transportable package. Okay, so once we start storing in a transportable package, it will ask you for what? Transport request, in which request you want to store that particular object. So once we assign the transport request, once the development is completed, we can what? We can what release the task and request all those things. So what happens generally is the setup would be like this. Try to understand this. Yeah. So what happens is initially one request would be created, something like this. Just try to understand. Assume that in your project we have some 5 ABAP consultants. Okay, we have some set of ABAP consultants. Every ABAP consultant will have their own users. Okay, so assume that, try to understand this. These are ABAP consultants. Okay, ABAP consultants. So every ABAP consultants will have what? One user ID. Okay, so assume that in this case, the user IDs are BN. Okay, assume that my user ID is BN, or some user or some ABAP consultant user ID is BN, and my user ID is something Caesar. Okay, and some user ID or something XYZ, like that. Assume that there are 3 ABAP consultants working in the project. Okay, every ABAP consultant will have their own user ID and what password. So initially what happens is a transport request should be created. Who will create this transport request? This transport request would be created by the basis consultant, or it would be created by the project manager, or it would be created by your team lead, or it can be created by any one of the ABAP consultant who is having the permission, to create the request. So assume like this. Initially, one request would be created. One second, please. One second. Okay. So initially, assume that one of the consultants in the project will create the transport request. So assume like this. How many ABAP consultants are there here? 3 ABAP consultant. Assume that this user with the user ID BAN will have the permission to create the transport request. So try to understand this. Whenever a transport request is created, one number gets generated. Okay, so assume that this number is something S for HK 9000700, some number. Okay, this number I call it as a transport request number, or I call it as what? Change request number. So who has created this? By some user in the project. Assume that in my case there are 3 users: BN, Sridhar, and what? XYZ. So whenever a request is created, we have to give some title. Okay, we have to give some title, some description. Assume that this request is something what? Gens of development. Description I give it as gens of development. Who is the owner of this request? The person who has created this is called as what? Owner. So in my case, the user with the user ID BAN will create what? This particular transport request, or we call it as a change request. So whenever a transport request is created, as part of this transport request, understood, as part of this transport request, a transport request is a collection of what task. So along with this request, assume that one task also gets created. So assume the task number is something S4HK, S4HK 900701. Okay, this task is created on behalf of which user? The same user BAN. Try to understand. So this particular BAN user has created the transport request. So whenever a transport request is created, along with that request, one default task gets created. Assume that the task number is S4HK 900701. Like that, there are some 3 users in the project now. The 3 ABAP consultant, every ABAP consultant will have their own user ID and what password. So what the other users will do, under the main request, under the main request, they will create their own task. They'll create their own task. So assume that my user ID is Sridhar. So what I'll do, under the parent request, what is the parent request here? S4HK 900700. So this is S4HK 900702. This is called as task. This task is created by which user? The user with the user ID what? Something what? Sridhar. With user ID what? Sridhar. Like this, every ABAP consultant will create what? Their own task under what? The main request 900703. So what is the other user ID here? Something what? XYZ. XYZ. Okay. One user can create any number of tasks. So 900701, 704. Assume that this is another task created by the user called as what? Sridhar. So what is the overall understanding is, how do you define a transport request? A transport request is a collection of what? A task. Is a collection of what? Tasks. The 701, 702, 703, 704, we call them as what? Task. Okay. What is the request here? 900700 is a request. So what you have to understand, one user in your project will create the main request. That request we call it as what? Transport request or what? Change request. Okay, who will create that? It can be any consultant. It can be basis consultant, or it can be ABAP consultant, it can be functional consultant. Whoever is having the authorization, whoever is having the permission, he will create a change request. Okay, under that request, the rest of the users should create what? Their own task. So how do you define a change request? We call it as change request or transport request. A transport request is a collection of what? Task. A transport request is a collection of what? One or more tasks. So what I'll do now is, first we'll try to understand how to create the transport request. So basically, we can classify this transport request into 2 types. One is workbench request. Another is what? Customizing request. I repeat, this transport request I can classify into 2 types. One is workbench request. Another is what? Customizing request. Workbench request means it will capture the changes made to repository and dictionary objects. Understood? So we know we have different repository objects like executable programs, include programs, module pull programs, okay, subroutine pulls, function groups, all those comes under what? What? Repository objects. Dictionary objects means what are we create in SC11? Tables, views, data elements, domains, type groups, table types, all those comes under dictionary objects. So what you have to understand here, workbench request will capture the changes made to repository and what? repository and what dictionary objects. And what is the other request I told? Customizing request. Customizing request will capture all the customization changes done by the functional consultant. I'll show that later on. So what are the configuration, what are the customization the functional consultant will perform, those changes are called as are captured in what? Customizing request. All the data related changes, configuration related changes will be captured in what? Customizing request. As of now, let us focus only on what? Workbench request. As an ABAP consultant, most of the time we are concerned with what? Workbench request. So what I'll do now, I will log on to the SAP system, and I log on to the SAP system with one of the user ID, and on behalf of that user, I'll create what? Change request. That is transport request. So when you are practicing in the system also, try to practice in the same sequence whatever I'm discussing. So I'll just log on to the system, try to understand. After I logged into which user here, or else let me re-log in. Yeah. So I'll just log on to the system. Okay, in my case the user ID is something ban. Okay, I'll give the password and log on to the system. Right, so I logged into the system. Logged into the system. What is the logged in username here? ban is a username. So what I have to do now, on behalf of the development, one of the user has to create what? The main request. We call it as transport request. So in my case, this user is having the permission to create the transport request. So how do we create this transport request and task? Means we have a tool called as transport organizer, SC09. SC09. By using that particular tool, we can create the transport request. So let me go to that SC09, right? So I'll go to SC09, right? SC09. I'll go inside. Yeah, right. So it has opened me a tool called as the transport organizer. What is the user ID displayed here? BAN, because I logged into which user here? BAN. So when you're practicing in your system, your user ID might be ABC. So it will show it as what here? ABC. Done. Then you can see here, it is asking the request type here. We have two types of request. What are they? Customizing request and what? Workbench request. Understood? Customizing request and workbench request. Two types of requests are there here, right? One is customizing and there is what? Workbench request. So as of now, let us focus only on what? Workbench request. So I'll just deselect this. I'll ensure that only workbench request is added. Request type is what? Workbench request. Done. Then what is the request status here? Modifiable is there and what? Released is there. Modifiable and what? Released. So you make sure that only modifiable is selected. Okay, modifiable means still under development, not yet released. So I'll go for what? I'll select the checkbox modifiable. Done. So in the request type, select workbench request. In the request status, select the checkbox what? Modifiable. And then on the application toolbar, there is a create button. Click on the create button, right? So when I click on the create button, yeah, it is again asking whether you want to create customizing request or what? Workbench request. So I'll choose what? Workbench request. I'll choose a workbench request. Make clear? So I've chosen workbench request and continue. Right. So it is asking me the description here. You give whatever description you want. So here, what is the description I want to give here? Gensoft development. Okay, Gensoft development. So what I'll do here, I'll give a short description as something. You can give any description. Okay, Reliance request. Okay, like this, you'll give a meaningful description. So I'll give the description as something, Gens of Technologies, something, some description I'm giving, done. Okay, provide some meaningful description. And observe this carefully. What I told you here, whenever a request is created, along with the request, one task also gets created on behalf of the same user. One task also gets created. We can see here at the bottom, task also is getting created on behalf of which user here? BAN user. Understood? BAN user. So I'll just click on what? Save button. I'll click on the save button. Done. So you can see here, observe this carefully. This is your request and this is your task. This is a request and this is a task. What is the request number here? S4HK 900704 is a request, and S4HK 900705 is a task here. Understood? So under one request, there can be any number of tasks. Observe this carefully. This is a task. Sorry, this is a request. We call it as what? Transport request or change request. Who is the owner of this request? The user, whoever has created this, he is called as what? Owner. So in my case, who is the owner? This user is the owner, BN. And I gave some description. Under this request, one default task got created. What is the current status of this task here? Unclassified. Unclassified. Why it is showing it as unclassified? Unclassified means as of now, the task is not associated. The task is associated. Understood? This is a request. Under this, one task is there. Right? Under this task, as of now, I don't have any objects. I don't have any objects. That is the reason it is showing the task as what? Status as what? Unclassified. When you start storing, when you start assigning any objects to this task, when you start assigning any object to this task, the task status will be changed. Unclassified means, assume it is an empty task which is not having any objects. As of now, I don't. Object means what? Anything we develop, we call it as what? Object. As of now, it is empty. Done. So now what happens? Like that, other users also, before starting their development activity, what they have to do? They have to create their own task under where? Under the main request. So in my project, in my development activity, what is the main request here? 900704 is a main request. Under that, one default task is there. Okay, done. Now what I'll do is, assume that I have to start doing the development. So before I start the development, on behalf of my user, one task should be there. Na? So let me just close this. Okay, unsaved data will be lost. Do you want to log off? Yes, I'm just logging off. Done. Now what I'll do is, observe this carefully. My user ID is Sridhar. So what I'll do now, before I start developing the objects, I have to ensure that one task is available under my name. Where you have to create the task? Under the main request. Who is the owner of the request? In my case, it is BN. So now I'll just log on to my credentials. So I'm having another user here. I'm having another user. So I'll just log on to another user, Sridhar. I'll give the credentials. Right. So I logged into what? What? Which user? No, Sridhar user. Okay. So why I logged into my user ID? Because before I start the development activity, I need to keep my task ready. So where you have to create the task? Under the main request. So how do I create the task now? Same tool, SE09. I'll go to SE09. Right? Request type is what? Workbench request. Request status is modified. Already the request is created. Initially, the BAN user has created the request. Now, under that main request, I need to create a task before I start my development activity. So I will select this workbench request. I'll select modifiable. I'll display. So when I display, what happens? It will show me all the requests available. So what are the, okay. Yeah, yeah. It is showing me what 702, 703. Actually, these are not my main request. No? What is the main request? 704. Who is the owner of that? Who is the owner of that particular request? BN. So even though I logged into which user here? Sridhar. That's why it is showing the user ID as Sridhar. If I click on display, it is showing my request and my task. But I have to create the task under the main request. Now, who is the owner of the main request? BN. So what I'll do here, I'll change the user ID to what? BN. I'm still in Sridhar only. If you see here, the logged in user is still Sridhar, but I'm changing the user here as a BN. If I display, it will show you the request related to this particular user. So if I display, done. You can see there are multiple requests related to the user what? BAN, related to the user BN. So what I have to do now? Under the main request, I have to create my task now. What is my main request here? This only na. Gensoft Technologies Development. I give a meaningful description. Under this request, already one task is available. Now what I have to do? On behalf of my user ID, I have to create my own task. I have to create my own task. So how do I create here? Observe here. This is the main request. I logged into which user here? I logged into user ID with the name what? Sridhar. Done. So for creating the task, I'll right click on my request. I'll right click on my main request. Right. Somewhere here, you have one menu item what? Add user. Okay. I'll choose what? Add user. Okay. I'll just click on this. Am I clear? Or else I'll choose a request here and application toolbar. There is another button create request. Okay. Or here if I choose, do we anywhere add request here? Yeah, I can see under request we have what? Add user. I can follow this navigation also. Understood? I can choose this request slash task menu and then what? Request add user, or else just you right click on the main request and choose what? Add user. Done. Create a task for the user. What is the user here? Sridhar. Done. Continue. Good. What happened here? One task also got created. So what is the main request here? 704. And under this main request, how many tasks are created? Two tasks, 706 and 705. So for better clarity, I'll put like this. This is 704 is the main request, and these are the assume different tasks here. Okay. So what is the task number here? Something 704. Right? And on behalf of this user only, one task got created. What is the task number? 705. And under this only, the other user has created what? One what? Task here. What is the task number here? 706. 706. Okay, so what is the initial thing I have done? By using that transport organizer tool, one of the user, in this case the user is BN, he has created what? One change request, or we call it as what? Transport request. Whenever that request is created, along with the request, what happened? One task also got created. Yes, the task got created 705. Then what I told, the rest of the users in the project, before they start development activity, what they have to do, they have to create their own task, where they have to create their own task under the main request. What is the main request number here? 704. So under 704, I created my own task like this. I can create any number of tasks. Suppose again I'll choose this 704. Observe this. Right click on this. I'll say add user. Okay, Sridhar, done. What happened here? One more task got created na? On behalf of the same user Sridhar. One more task got created. What is that? 707. So let me put it here. So this is 707. You assume 900. What? 707. What happened on behalf of the same user? What is that user here? Sridhar, he has created what? One more task. So this is again what Sridhar, he has created one more task. So what I'm trying to convey here is one user can have any number of tasks within the same request. So this is Sridhar. So this is the initial setup. Any questions so far? So I'll repeat once again. What we have done so far is by using the transport organizer tool, one of the user in the project, which user means we don't know, it depends on the permissions. One of the user that can be a basis consultant, project manager, team lead, supervisor, any ABAP consultant also might create what? The main request, which we call it as a transport request. Along with that request, what happens? One default task also gets created. So once that main request is created, what the other users has to do? They have to log on to their respective what user ID, and within their what login session, they have to create what? They have to create their respective task under what? The main request. So in this case, the user Sridhar has created what? Multiple tasks here, 706 and 707. So this is the initial setup. Any queries? So when you are practicing in your system, you may not have other user. So only whatever the user you have, you just create the request. Under that request, one task also gets created, and you can right click on the request and you can create any number of tasks with the same user IDs. Done. So this is the initial setup. Now on behalf of the entire project, what happens? One package would be available. What is a package? A package like a directory, like a folder, which is a collection of what? Objects. Again, we will create this package. I cannot say that so and so person will create. It can be created by what? Any one of the consultant in the project. So assume that in this case, this BN user is going to create the package. So whatever we create, it is nothing but an object. Even that package is also considered as what? Object. So what I'll do now, I am in which user as of now? I logged into which user? Sridhar. So let me log on to what? BN user. So this BN user is going to create the package on behalf of the whole project. So let me log on to the BAN user. I'll give the credentials. Right. So I'm in which user now? BN user. So what this user is going to do now, assume that actually he is the owner of the request. Assume that the same person will create the package. It can be anyone. Okay. So in this case, the same user is creating the package. Why we have to create the package? So that all the consultants, when they start saving the object, they can provide that particular package. If they provide the package only, it will ask you for the change request. If you don't provide the package, if you save it in local object, what happens? It will not ask you for any request. So if it is not assigned to the request, I cannot do the transportation. So what I'll do now, I'll create the package. There might be 100 different ways of creating the package. I'll go to what? SC80. Already we know SC80. Yeah, I'll go to SC80, Object Navigator, right? So I'll go to SC80 for creating the package. Yeah, observe this carefully. Yeah, done. So in the drop down, I'll choose what? Package. Am I clear? In the drop down, I'll choose package. Right. Here I'll give the package name. Understood? Here I'll choose package. I'll give the package name here. Let me give the package name as something Z. Okay, Z. Uh, you can give any package since it is a custom package. I'll give it in what? Z. See, what is this package meant? If you observe if you take any standard objects also, suppose if I go to SC11, I have a table called as K11. This is also one of the object. Na? So in which package this object is stored? If you go to attributes, what is the package is saying here? vScore it seems. This is the package given by whom? SAP. Am I clear? I'll take another table like LFA1 table. Okay, where this table is stored in which package? Something WLIF core. Understood? So there are multiple packages. There are multiple packages. So if I go to this Mara table, it is stored in package what? MG. Am I clear? If I open any standard program, I'll go to SC38, or else I'll go to a function model which we know. We have a function model like what pop up to inform. So I'll open that function model pop up to inform, right? Pop up to inform. If I display, yeah, if I go to attributes, what is the package they are showing here? You can see here. What is the package here? STUN. STUN. Okay, I'll open another function model, pop up to what? Confirm. If you go to attributes, what is the package here? SZP. Okay, so okay, let me take this particular package SZP. SZP. So if I go to object navigator SC80, right? So I'll choose package here. What is the package I collected? SZP. Na? If I press enter, yeah, this is a standard package, right? So under this package, you can see here, there are many sub packages, there are many programs here, there are many dictionary objects here. Am I clear? So like that, there are different types of objects here. In one package, I can have any number of what? Objects. I can have any number of objects. So what I have to do now? On behalf of our development, assume that we have only one package. We may have multiple packages, but let us not get deviated. I'll take only what? One package. So on behalf of the entire project, assume that we have only one package so that all the consultants has to store their objects in the same package. So I'm in which user now? BN. I'll try to create the package. So I'll go to SC80. Right, so in the drop down, I'll choose a package. Since it is a custom package, I'll give it as what Z. I'll give the package name as something Z Gensoft. Some name I'll give Z Gensoft package. Some name, right? Z Gensoft package. I'll press enter. If this package is already available, it will display that package. So let me press enter. It is saying that package does not exist. Do you want to create the object? Yes. Understood. So I'm trying to create the object here. Yes. Package is also one of the objects. So I'll say yes here. Good. It is asking some short description. So I'll just give the description as something package for Gensoft development. Some meaningful description I'll give. And here in this window, there is something called as software component. Ensure that software component is always home. If you browse here, okay, there are different software components. We need not worry about this. So always make sure that you will select the software component as what? Home. Home indicates what here? Yeah, you can see home indicates what? Customer development. So in my case, this software component home is coming by default. In your case, if it is not coming, you select what? Home. Okay, so I just gave the package, I gave the description. Software component is home. What is the package type here? Development package. So there are other options, you need not worry about that. By default, it is a development package. Just save it. So this package is also one of the object now. Who is creating this package now? Which user is creating that? BAN user. Okay. On behalf of BAN user, what are the tasks available? 705 na? 705. Remember, observe this carefully. Under this 705 is available under which request here? 704. So observe this carefully. I'll choose home here. I'll say continue. Good. It is asking me what the request. In which request you want to store this package. Package is also what? An object. So in which request you want to store? It is showing some request by default here. I am not interested. I'll browse this. Understood? I'll browse this. It is going to show you the request available in my system. So it is taking some time. Yeah, you can see what is the request here, 704 only. Na? So if you expand this request, it is showing you what? Many tasks. Which task I can choose here? Only 705. Why 705? I'm in which user now? BN user. BN user is trying to develop an object. What is that object there? Package. So one user cannot choose the task of what? Other user. Okay, even if you choose and continue, even if you choose and continue, it may give an message saying that you are not authorized. But this is not the licensed software. I may not get the message, but generally one user cannot select the task of what another user means. I have to store my object in my own task. So I'm in which user now? BN. What is my task number? 705. Observe this carefully. I'll choose 705, continue. Even though I'm choosing task here, it will not show the task number here. It will show me what? The main request number. So what I did from this drop down, it is listing out me different requests. What is my request? 704. Under this 704, what is the task I have to choose? My own task. Okay, I'll choose what? 705. It will show you the main request. Continue. Done. Okay, so before I start using the package, let me right click and what? Activate. Activate is not there. Activation is not there. Okay, so since activation is not there, I need not do anything. Done. So package is created. As of now, my package is what? Empty. Okay, now observe this. If you go to SC09, earlier what was the status of the task? Unclassified. Na? So if I go to SC09, transport organizer tool, right, I'll select what? Request type is what? Workbench request. What is the request status? Modifiable. I'll choose display. Yeah, you can see it under this 704, right? Under this 704, if I expand, we have what? 705. This is a task on behalf of the BN user. What is the status it is showing here? Earlier it was showing unclassified. Now I saved one object in that task. Na? So it has changed the status. It has changed the status to what? Development slash correction. If I expand this, what is happening here? Under this task, one object is available. What is that object here? Package. Done. Z Gensoft package. Am I clear? Any queries up to this point? Okay. So now what I'll do, I will develop a program here. I'm in which user now? I'm in which user? BN. Okay. So assume that this ABAP consultant is responsible for developing one object. So I'm developing, observe this carefully, SC38. I'll give the program name as something, Z my program 1. Z my program 1. I'll give some object name, Z my program 1, create. Yeah, observe this carefully. Title, I'll give the title as something, test program 1. What is the type of program? Obviously what? Executable program. I will save it. When I save it, so far we are saving in local object. Now also I can save in local object. What is the problem? If you save your object in local object, it cannot be transported. What is our agenda? What are the developments we do? We have to transport it from one system to what? Another system. So for that reason, what I'll do, I will give the package name. What is the package available on behalf of my project? Z Gensoft package. So what is my object name? Z my program 1. Who is the owner of this object? BN. Person responsible is what? BN. He is the owner of this object. Now on behalf of my entire project, I am having one package now. What is that package? Z Gensoft package. So if you browse here, it will show you the hundreds of packages. So I'll just Z Gen star, I'll say continue. Z Gen star continue. It is showing me that package name. I'll choose what? Z Gensoft package. So far we are saving in what? Local object. Now I'm saving in what? a package. What is the package name? Gens of package. Done. I'll click on what? Save. Since I'm trying to save this object in a package, when I save it, observe this carefully. It is asking under which request you want to save it. So I have to save it in my task. Na? I'm in which user no BN. Na? So I'll browse this. What is my task here? Under 704, what is my task? 705 only. Na? Earlier, the 705 has got one package. Okay, now I'll choose what? Task only. But here it will show it as what? Request. Done. Continue. Done. So I'll say write allow. Okay, so save it, check for the syntax, activate. Okay, observe this carefully. What is the tab highlighted here? Transportable objects. So far, what was highlighted? Local objects was highlighted. Now, transportable objects is highlighted. Now, sorry, so far local objects were highlighted. Now, transportable objects is highlighted. Done. Continue. So I develop an object. Okay, what is the status of the object? Active. Right? So I'll go to SC38, sorry, I'll go to SC09. See the setup once again under this BN, workbench request modifiable display, under 704, which is the main request, under 705, which is what is the task status here? Development slash correction, because it has got one object now. It has got two objects. One is package, another is what? Program. Like that, every object that I develop, I'll store it inside what? My own task. Assume that I'll develop another program, SC38. I'll give the object name as Z my program to try to understand. Create. Okay, I'll just give some title. Test program to what is the type of program? Executable. It is asking me the package. Provide that package name. Save it. It is asking me in which request you want to store. I'll browse this. I'll choose my own task. What is my task? 705. I cannot choose other users' task. In the real time, if you choose other users' task, you'll get a message. You are not authorized to use so and so task. You'll not have the permission. So I'll choose 705 only. Done. It will show the main request. Continue. Right. So I'll give some text here. Right. What is this? Buy. Am I clear? Save it. Check for the syntax. What is the status of the object? Inactive. Let it be inactive only. Let it be inactive. Okay, done. So if you go back to SC09 now, right? If I display, yeah, if I go to this request, yeah, under this task, we have one package and we have what? Two programs. Z my program 1, Z my program 2. Like this, all the objects whichever I develop, I'll store it in what? My own task. I'll just log off here. Other user is doing the development. What is the other user I'm having in my case? Sridharna. Let me log on to that. I'll log on to that. What is the password was? Yeah. So I'm in which user now? I'm in what? Sridhar. Okay. So this person also is responsible for developing the objects. So I'm developing SC38. I'll go to this SC38. I'll give the object name as Z my program 3, something, some program name I'll give, create. Okay, I'll just give some title, test program 3. What is the type of program? Executable. Understood? Who is the owner of this object? Sridhar. I'll save it. Yeah, it is asking the package name. Okay, I can choose the same package na? On behalf of the entire package and on behalf of the entire project. You may have only one package. So other consultants also will choose the same package. Even though that package is created by other user, I can still use it. So what is the package name? Z Gensoft package. I'll provide the package name. Who is the owner of this object? Z my program 3 Sridhar. I'll try to what? Click on save button. Observe this carefully. When I save it, it is asking for the request. Na? What is my project request? 704. Na? So if you browse, yeah, good. Observe this carefully. It is showing me what 704. Under the 704, what are my tasks available? 707 and 706. I cannot choose 705. This is the task of another user. Na? I am in which user now? Sridhar. I have to choose either 706 or what? 707. So I'll choose 706. What is the current status? Unclassified because it was empty. Now I'll choose 706. It will still show you what? The main request continue. Done. So I'll say write welcome, save it, check for the syntax, activate. When I execute, I got the result. So I'm done with my development. What is my user ID? Sridhar. I'm done with my development. Once my development is completed, so what I'm trying to show here, a request will have n number of what? Tasks. N number of tasks. So in this particular object, we have what? Sorry, under this task, we have some three objects. Na? We have some three objects. One is a package, I believe. What is that? Z package. And what is the other program? Z my program 1, Z my program 2, right? And similarly, what the other user has done under his own task, 706 I have chosen, I think. He has saved his own object under his own task. What is my object name here? Sridhar, Z my program 3, na? Z my program 3. So my user ID is Sridhar. I'm done with my development. I'm done with my development. So what I have to do now? Once my development is finished, I need to release my task. I need to release the task. Am I clear? So before releasing the task, all the objects which are there under task should be in active status. Okay, it can be active only if there are no syntax errors. Na? So make sure that they are in what? Active status. Anyhow, it is active only. Na? So I'll try to release my task. I'll go to SC09. SC09, I'll display. Observe this. Under this 704, right? This is my 70. Good. What is the status now? Development slash correction, because we have started storing one object. Na? Right? So this is my program. Okay, I assume that I am done with my development. So what I have to do, once I'm done with my development, I need to release my task. So I'll just put the cursor on my task. Okay, select your task, and in the application toolbar you can see there is a truck symbol. What is this? Release directly. Click on the button word release directly. Observe this carefully. I can release the task only if all the objects in the task are in active status. So I'll choose this, click on what? Release directly. Okay, so the Sridhar user is trying to release his task. Good. Once it is successfully released, what happened here? I got a tick mark. Na? So this user has done with his development. He has released his task. Once he releases the task, what happens? A tick mark will come, indicating that the task is released. Like that, other users also should release their respective task. One user cannot release the task of other user. You will not have the permission. So like that, other users also should release their respective tasks. When they will release their respective task, only if the development is completed. But in this case, 705, who is the owner of this task? BN. There are three objects. One is package, another is what? Two programs. One of the program is in inactive state. Na? So I'll try to release this task. It should not allow me. So I cannot release it now, na? Because I'm in Sridhar user. Let me log on to BN user. I will log on to the BN user. Right? So I'm in BN user now. I'll go to SC09. I'll try to release my task. What is that under 704? Yeah, 705 is a status development. I'll try to release, but wantedly one of the object is in an inactive state. Na? So I'll choose 705. I'll click on what? Release directly. I'm in which user now? BAN. Assume that I'm done with my development. I'm trying to release my task. I'll put the cursor, click on what? Release directly. Good. It is giving me an error. What is that? Program 2 is inactive. One of the object which is there under task is inactive. So I cannot release. So what this BAN user has to do, he has to ensure that all his objects are in active status. So I'll double click on program 2 here. I'll try to activate this. I can activate it only if there are no syntax errors. So I'll activate. Done. It is activated. Done. I'll go back. I'll try to release the task 705. I'll choose what? Release directly. Good. What happened here? This task I need not release because anyway it is unclassified. It is an empty task. I need not release it. So my user ID is BN. So what I'll do, once I release my task, I'll send this screenshot. I'll send this screenshot to my supervisor saying that I'm done with my development. My task is released. Similarly, the Sridhar user also, once he has released his task, he will send the screenshot to the supervisor saying that his development is completed. Like that, once all the tasks are released, the owner of the request will release the main request. Am I clear? Once all the tasks within the request is released, the owner of the request will release the main request. How do I release this? Who is the owner of this request? BN only, na? So I'll choose this, click on what? Release directly. Release directly. Okay, I'm choosing this. Done. It is not showing me down now. It is showing under release section. It is showing me under release section. Like this, once the request is released, again this screenshot will be sent to the concerned person. He will do the actual, means the basis consultant will do the actual transportation. Our job is, the development team job is only to release a task and request. The actual transportation will be done by the basis consultant by using some tools. We are not bothered about that. So our job will end here only. Like that, the development process will continue. So like this, what is the understanding now? Once all the tasks are released, the owner of the request will release what? The main request. Once the request is released, what is the meaning? It is ready for what? Transportation. The basis consultant will do the actual transportation. Yes. Any questions?
Hello,
Yes, Rohit. Sandeep,
sir
sorry.
Sandeep.
Sandeep.
Yeah, when we shared these recordings, sir.
Sorry?
Yesterday recording is also not shared.
Yesterday recording is not shared because for your batch, I don't know whether you observed or not. Already I've shared the recording related to pooled and cluster tables. 3 months back only. Cross check that.
No, sir.
3 months back only I've shared. I've checked it yesterday. It was already there
Okay.
in your this pooled and cluster table. It is there. Okay. And I'll show you that name also. 1 second.
Okay.
Dictionary objects part 11 pooled and cluster table creation. Okay.
No, sir. I have
Just
only 9 parts.
check it. Okay. Check it once again. If it is not there, because I've shared it to the entire batch, not only for you, for the entire batch I've shared it. Just cross check. If it is not there,
Actually,
drop me a
last
mail.
week I have checked the dictionary objects and every topic I have only 9 parts.
Okay.
But here you are showing 11th part.
So check it in spam. In the email, you check it in the spam also. If it is not there, I'll share. Not an issue.
Yeah, okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah. What about others in this batch? Sandeep batch, not there. Huh? Okay. Just cross check once again and drop me a mail. I'll share it once again. Not an issue, Sandeep. I'll share. Okay.
Yeah, okay, sir. Today's
Yeah.
video also will be shared today.
See, you have attended almost around 70 sessions. Did I miss any
Yes.
recording? No, no.
No, no,
I'll
no.
share. I'll share.
Yeah,
Don't
okay.
worry. What I'll do with that? It is for sharing
Okay.
only. Na? Okay, I'll share
Okay.
it, but not immediately after the class. By the end of the day, I'll share it. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Don't worry. Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Rohit.
Sir, in project,
Mhm.
anyone can create a request, and anyone can, if different person is create a package, is it
Mm.
possible?
Depends on the permissions.
Okay,
Yes, why not? It can. That's what I said. Whoever is having the authorization, when the basis consultant is creating the users, he will give some permissions to each user. Okay, you may have some permissions, I may not have that permissions. So depends. Okay, what you have to understand is one consultant in the project will create the package. You will create the main request. Under that main request, you will create the task. Who is that person means he can be basis consultant only, he can be project manager, he can be team lead, he can be ABAP consultant who is a fresher. Depends. I cannot say that only this person will create. It depends on project to project. Okay, but this is setup. The setup is important here, right?
okay,
Right.
sir.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So there are many other things we have to discuss in this. I'll continue this tomorrow. What I suggest everyone is you practice. So when you're practicing, you may not have multiple users. You'll have only one user. So you practice only in that user. In that user only you create the request. Along with that request, one task also gets created by default. If you want, you create n number of tasks and you create one package. And whenever you are saving any object, you try to save that object in a package. Okay, so that it will ask you for the request. At the time of choosing the request, you select the appropriate task, and once the development is completed, you try to release the task. Once the task is released, the owner of the request will release what? The main request. Once the request is released, the screenshot will be sent to the appropriate consultant, the generally the basis consultant. He will do the actual transportation. The role of ABAP consultant is only releasing the task and releasing the request. That's all. You may not be involved in the actual transportation. It is the job of the administrator, basis concern. So there are many things in this, how to copy the objects from one task to another task, version management. So we'll discuss that in the tomorrow's session. Clear? So I'll share that recording, Sandeep. If the recordings are not there, yesterday's pooled and cluster table, I'll share
Yes,
it
sir.
today.
I'm checking. His spam also not there.
Are there? Fine, no problem. I'll share it by
Yeah.
afternoon. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. What about the other batch, Rohit, Sai batch? I've shared the yesterday's recording to your batch, no? Hope everyone
Yes,
is
sir.
read. Sapna got it right? Okay. Yeah. Okay then. So practices will continue tomorrow around same time 6:15. We'll continue with this transport management. Sure. Thanks everyone.